It's the Metro. I'm Tia Graham on 1019 WDET FM, and we're shifting gears just a little bit here. The Negro Leagues are widely credited with revolutionizing baseball. The aggressive, scrappy, base-stealing style of play was an attraction for fans of all backgrounds. The league's founder, Rube Foster, was largely responsible for introducing that style of play and bringing the league to its early success. After Foster passed in 1930, the league continued to innovate for nearly 2 decades. And during that time, the sport pioneered night games, fielded some of the sport's greatest players, and broke the color barrier. Bob Kendrick is the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. In this conversation with the Metro's Carey Jr. II, he details the Negro Leagues' lasting legacy in baseball, in sports, and in American culture.
The Negro Leagues certainly suffered not only the loss of their fearless leader, but the Great Depression hits, and it did have an impact on the Negro Leagues, which is part of the reason that Kansas City Monarchs owner J.L. Wilkinson pioneered night baseball in the Negro Leagues in 1930, 5 years before they ever played under the lights in the major leagues. The Negro Leagues were already playing night games. Now, your history book is going to tell us that the first professional night baseball game, 1935, Crosley Field, Cincinnati, Ohio, the Cincinnati Reds versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, the history book is wrong. The first professional night baseball game was 1930, and it featured the great Kansas City Monarchs. Wilkinson literally mortgaged everything he had to get a $50,000 loan in 1929 to build this portable light tower system. So not only could they play a night game here in Kansas City, they could load them up on the truck and play a night game virtually anywhere. Now, $50,000 is pretty good money right now, but $50,000 in 1929 would be the equivalent under today's economic index of nearly $1 million. Wow. Yeah. And how popular was night baseball? Wilkinson made his investment back in year 1.
Wow. I suspect that's because night baseball means people aren't working, so more people can attend.
You got it. He was looking for a way to get the working class fan into the ballpark, and night baseball became that answer. Night baseball became even bigger than Sunday games. Now, mind you, Sunday games were so popular that black churches would move their service time up an hour. Now, I don't even have to tell you. If you know anything about the black church,
wow,
you don't mess with service time.
And it don't go in. It don't end short either. It usually goes long.
No, it don't be short. No, 11 o'clock Sunday go to meeting. Well, when the Monarchs were at home, when the Detroit Stars were at home, church service would start at 10 o'clock, and then we filed out going to that Sunday doubleheader dressed to the nines, as they would say, looking good. You have to understand that there was nothing recreational about a Negro Leagues game. It was the social event of the week. And man, you went to see and you went to be seen. And night baseball was even bigger than that. But as I tell my guests, here's where the fallacy occurs. American historians never view Negro Leagues baseball as having been professional. Thus, the major leagues could get credited with something that had happened 5 years prior. And as I also share with my school-age audience, it is absolutely akin to Columbus discovering a country that already had people there. You can't do it. No, you can't do it. But the moral of the story is this. If you don't control the pen, you don't control the story. Thus, your story is never written with the kind of accuracy or relevancy that it should be.
You talked about the cultural impact, the fact that these were events, these were staple events. These night games, I imagine, expanded the economic impact. Can you talk about the foundation that it set, the jobs it created, all that stuff?
Absolutely, man. Number one, I love when we get guests from that era who attended those games. Because when they walk in, you can see the memories cascading back to them. And they remember those games. They remember what they wore to those games. They remember the nightclubs they went to
After
after
the
the
game.
game. Absolutely. But you're right. Negro Leagues Baseball was the third largest black-owned business in this country during that era of segregation. It only trailed black-owned insurance companies. Next was Madam C.J. Walker. And of course, she did it with her School of Cosmetology, really becoming the first woman to earn $1 million with a business structure. And then next was Negro Leagues Baseball. Here at historic 18th and Vine, where the museum operates, it was once upon a time a prominent African-American community. It was a cultural crossroads where jazz and baseball intersected. And let me tell you, anybody who was anybody made their way to historic 18th and Vine. And the reason that we have featured in the museum what I call lifestyle exhibits, because we wanted to impart upon our guests that economic impact yielded by black baseball. Many of those businesses emerged to meet need. Negro Leagues Baseball was bringing them a built-in clientele that led those segregated, mandated black-owned businesses to their economic heights. You see, if there is a bittersweet aspect to the overall story of the Negro Leagues, it lies in the fact that you could directly parallel the rise and fall of the Negro Leagues with the rise and fall of black economy. And to a great extent, black economy never recovered from losing the Negro Leagues. So what was good morally, what was good socially, was devastating economically. Or as I share with my guests, there is always a cost for progress. But this was good for the soul of our country. And when I speak of that, I speak of integration of baseball, which in essence spawned integration in a broader spectrum in our society.
Okay.
But man, it absolutely came at a cost.
Legal integration, which was sparked by school desegregation, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 are often blamed for the decline of the black economy. Once black people could spend money anywhere, it de-emphasized black business. You are saying Jackie Robinson's role breaking the color barrier changed the cultural zeitgeist and enabled integration to be something U.S. citizens were more comfortable with, even outside the sport itself, right?
Jackie Robinson's breaking of the color barrier spawned integration in a broader spectrum. And so it opened up opportunities for us to do business with people who initially did not want to do business with us. Because I do think when it's been embedded in you that what the others have is better than what you have, then you naturally aspire to have that. You believe that the water is wetter, the ice is colder, the grass is greener. And so there's certainly reason to assess whether or not we lost more or gained more with the loss of the Negro Leagues.
You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. My guest is Bob Kendrick. He is the president of the Negro Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. We are discussing the economic and cultural impacts of the Negro Leagues. Okay, Bob, so sports broadly are often kind of described as great unifiers. That no matter what your religion or your political beliefs are, whether you're different races or different economic statuses, you could root for the same team. Do you feel like that has been the case in the past? And do you feel like that still remains to be the case now?
No. Nothing's unified us in this country like sports and music. Those are the two things that I think that distinctly connect us. And nothing more than sports, and certainly nothing greater than baseball. Because ultimately, when Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier, here's what you saw. You saw white kids in Brooklyn saying, "I'm Jackie Robinson," because they didn't see Jackie Robinson, a black ball player. They saw Jackie Robinson, a baseball player. And when Brooklyn started to win, all of a sudden, his color became less of a hindrance because we're all on the same team. Now, was there fear amongst the players? Of course there was. And you had a lot of players from the Deep South. So here comes this black man into their clubhouse. And unfortunately, the things that we know about each other are the things that somebody told us. We heard that you were this way. They heard I was that way. And then here comes Jackie Robinson. Tremendous athlete, had been a four-sport star at UCLA. Baseball was his weakest sport, which tells you how great an athlete Jackie was, because he turns himself into a Hall of Fame baseball player. But Jackie Robinson also had the other intangibles that prepared him to deal with the immense racial hatred that first ball player was going to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. He had been a celebrated collegian, an All-American football player at UCLA. So he had a little bit of cachet. Plus, he was accustomed to competing with and against white athletes. Mm. He had served in the military. He's disciplined. He would become married to the beautiful Rachel Robinson. He's stable. All of those attributes would be called upon to deal with that immense racial hatred. Keep in mind, when Jackie Robinson walked out on that field as a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers, man, he was called everything but, as my late mother would say, but a child of God when he walked out there. And when he came to the plate, they knocked him down continuously. When he would slide into second base, he would oftentimes come up wet, where the opposition had spit on him. When the opposition slid into second, they came in spikes high trying to cut him. They did everything imaginable to break Jackie. But Jackie would not break. So the question that is always posed to me was he the best player in the Negro Leagues? And the answer is no, he wasn't. And that's not to disparage Jackie, because, again, he's one of the greatest athletes in American sports history, but baseball was his weakest sport. It speaks to the immense talent that was there in the Negro Leagues, but he was the right man to be the first. Because as I remind our guests, you have to remember the first guy cannot fail. If the first guy fails, there is no second guy. And it would have been so easy for the naysayers. Because if Jackie can't take the abuse, the naysayers would have said, see, I told you. And if Jackie can't play, the naysayers would have said, see, I told you they weren't good enough to play in our league. It might have been another 5, 10, 15, 20 years or more before another black man would have gotten the opportunity to play in the major leagues.
In 2024, Major League Baseball incorporated Negro League players' statistics, and that completely changed the record books. What was your reaction to the decision, and why was it important to do that?
I have to tip my cap to Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, who in December of 2020 announced plans to, number one, first and foremost, that Major League Baseball was going to recognize the Negro Leagues for what we already knew it to be, a major league. I always said that had the doors opened before 1947, the record books would be entirely different. And so what did the commissioner do? He went back and reopened that door, and now the record books are entirely different. And we were obviously very proud of this. To me, the recognition of the Negro Leagues as a major league meant just as much, if not more, because all these other leagues had been formally recognized. And here was the Negro Leagues not getting any credence when the Negro Leagues had as greater impact on Major League, greater impact than any of those other leagues that had been officially recognized had on Major League Baseball. I just mentioned all these great stars we sent to the Major Leagues. Major League Baseball got better when it opened its doors to those black and brown players from the Negro Leagues. And of course, for those handful of Negro League players who are still with us, it meant that they were getting, again, the kind of attention and recognition that they deserved. It, for the families of those players, obviously very proud. And for me, you can never reduce the story of the Negro Leagues, however, to statistics. Stats are just a part of this. Now, for the baseball fan, baseball is that beautiful game of comparisons and statistics. And so for that baseball fan that needed to have these numbers, okay, now you got these numbers. The fact that you are now hearing these names, many fans for the first time, well, it should be a portal to greater understanding. You should now want to learn about Josh Gibson, who in my own estimation was the greatest combination of power and average this sport has ever seen. You should want to learn about Detroit's own Norman Turkey Stearns. Yeah, earned the nickname Turkey because he stood at the plate with a kind of a pigeon-toed stance, and I think all the pitchers thought they could get him out. Guy standing at the plate like that, and he was setting them up. But when he ran, his arms flapped like a turkey. But as I remind folks, this turkey could fly. Norman Turkey Stearns is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. So just because they've now knocked down some of these legendary major leaguers in those positions in the record books doesn't diminish that player. It doesn't diminish Ty Cobb. But it should help you understand how good a Josh Gibson was, how good a Norman Turkey Stearns was, how good a Boo June Wilson was, Hilton Smith, Bullet Rogan. Yeah, and I hope it elevates even heightened interest in this museum, because particularly if you are a baseball fan, then you want to learn.
But is there credence behind the people who say, well, this just isn't fair altogether because they didn't play against one another? Should there be just maybe separate ranks, compare this league to that league? Is there credence or justification behind that?
Yeah, well, and I knew we were going to get that. And I think about shortly after it happened, guy hit me up on social media, and he says, well, Mr. Kendrick, I want this to be apples to apples. Shorter season, so they didn't play as many games. And it took everything I had not to cuss, but I kept my decorum. And I sent him a message back. And I said, sir, it can't ever be apples to apples because no major leaguer had to worry about where they were going to get something to eat. No major leaguer ever had to sleep on the bus. No major leaguer had to get dressed under the stands that they were about to fill up, not have a place to wash your uniform. So no, it can't be apples to apples. If anything, it should help you understand just how much more extraordinary these players were to be able to overcome those kinds of social conditions, because no matter what their hardships were, when they went in that ballpark, their reputation preceded them. We heard y'all could play. Let me see what you got.
Bob Kendrick is the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. This is part of a longer conversation between Bob Kendrick and Carey Jr. II. To hear how Negro League founder Rube Foster organized the teams, head to our website at wdet.org/metro or find the Metro wherever you get your podcasts. The Metro is produced by Sam Corey, Carey Jr. II, Robin Vincent, and me, Tia Graham. Our engineer is Nate Bender, and music done by Sam Bobian. Our senior producer is David Lyons. The Metro is a production of WDET, a listener-supported service of Wayne State University. And this is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. Have a great week, everyone.